y'all that do remodeling or whatever it is it might be doing in the city of Atlanta. I just had a guy ask me if he saw somebody on a bicycle as his tools are stolen. If it is not in your hand, if your toolbox is unlocked and opened, whatever is in it will be in somebody's hand on its way to wherever. Do not let yourself be a victim. Here we go again. Ambulance is already there. Shit. Ain't me.
Election. The Democrats realize that if they lose the House, Hunter Biden will be investigated, the raid in Mar-a-Lago will be investigated, Russia collusion can be revisited, Eric Swalwell will be stripped of all of his committees. I would argue that he should be expelled from the House for consorting with a Russian agent, with a Chinese agent. The shoe will be on the other foot. Whether the Republicans have the ability to be as tough and as aggressive as the Democrats have been with power remains to be seen. There needs to be a motion to censure Adam Schiff for his many lies, and he needs to be censured.
You talked about 2024 moving forward. You've spoken with the president, ex-president. Where do you stand now, and where do you think he'll run in 2024?
Well, as you know from our last conversation, there's been some evolution in my thinking. I think he's now more likely to run than ever before. I think his political prospects have been improved dramatically. He's now both a sympathetic figure and he is. His poll numbers have been reinvigorated. His fundraising has been reinvigorated. I don't think it's a question of does he run. I simply think it is a question of when he announces his candidacy.
Mike Pence recently has almost welcomed testimony in front of the January 6th committee. Tell me what you think his motive is, and if you can compare that to Vice President Ford's testimony with Richard Nixon.
Mike Pence is trying to breathe life into a dead political career. Mike Pence, the only people who think Mike Pence is a legitimate contender for president are either on his payroll or live inside the Beltway. Among rank and file Republicans, Mike Pence is perhaps one of the most despised people in America. He has no chance whatsoever. I think he'll file. I think he'll run. He could even run behind Liz Cheney, although that's going to be difficult on the nomination. After Ronald Reagan, George Bush, his vice president, easily won the nomination. After Dwight Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, his vice president, easily won the nomination. This demonstrates the low regard they have for the political talents of Kamala Harris. They don't believe that she will be a viable contender, maybe even as an incumbent president. I don't wish President Biden any ill will, but the actuarial tables would tell us he's not even going to finish this term. And he does not look like he's well. The Obamas control the machinery of the Democratic Party. Does Gavin Newsom believe that going across the country saying, I want to turn all of America into what we have in California is a compelling message? Between crime, drugs, and people just defecating in the streets, it's a disaster. He's no success record to point to. He can raise a lot of money, but I don't see him as a viable candidate.
Vladimir Putin.
Tough and dangerous.
The FBI.
Corrupt. Politicized.
The January 6th Commission.
A fraud.
Beto O'Rourke.
A lightweight.
Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Unanswered questions.
Lyndon Johnson.
A psychopath, a sadist, and a murderer.
Mike Pence.
Done.
Finally, Roger Stone in 5 years.
Roger Stone did nothing wrong. The best is yet to come.
As always,
the Trumpies is clearly which way the new MAGA Republicans are. They're extreme. Those remarks are getting pushback from some, saying they only serve to divide the country. The White House on Tuesday stepped up its defense, saying Biden meant to target lawmakers only.
There's lots of Republican voters who do agree with the president that they think the election was, with the former president, I mean, but
Yeah,
the
I hear
election. So does the president consider all of those people who support these extreme agendas that he's talking about to be the MAGA Republicans?
So he has been very clear that he's talking about office holders. He's talking about elected officials.
What group of people does he think are MAGA Republicans?
You have leaders in the Republican Party who are offering extreme agenda, and so that's what he means.
Biden himself has also said,
I don't consider any Trump supporter to be a threat to the country.
but a new poll by the Trafalgar Group says almost 60% of likely voters consider Biden's primetime speech last week a dangerous escalation in rhetoric and is designed to incite conflict. Biden on Tuesday insisted again that he's not criticizing all Republicans, but only what he calls the extreme ones. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, however, says Biden's targeting those who oppose him with dangerous language.
One of the major
Over $11 billion for Ukraine, with $2 billion to offset the rise in domestic energy costs. The White House is also proposing $500 million to help low-income Americans pay for higher utility bills, and $6.5 billion for disaster relief to address floods, hurricanes, drought, and more. The White House says this money is for emergencies, so the costs should not have to be offset.
And should we expect to see a chaotic last-minute vote on these routine bills similar to what happened last year?
Yeah, Steve, so I think we can expect to see a bit of chaos and dispute around this annual funding bill, both the long-term funding bill and the stopgap funding bill. And that's for a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is because we are in an election cycle, so we can expect to see lawmakers wanting to use every opportunity they can get to message to their voters. Another speed bump we can see here is Republican pushback against COVID relief specifically. We know a couple of months ago they were pushing back against this supplemental funding for COVID relief, saying that much of the money that was granted in the previous COVID relief funding was used for purposes unrelated to the pandemic. Republicans were also wanting to make sure that any new spending for COVID is offset. The cost of that would be offset. But now with the White House saying that they don't think it's necessary to offset the cost for new emergency spending, this could really leave some room for Republicans to push back strongly, and we can't expect them to be quite vocal about this. But with that being said, it is an election cycle. Midterms are right around the corner, just a few weeks away. So lawmakers do want to get back home to make sure they're continuing to campaign. So with that in mind, we do expect them to try to negotiate rather quickly in order to return to their home states and continue on the campaign trail. Steve?
States have passed right-to-work laws. This includes states like Florida, Texas, North Carolina, and other historically conservative states. Since the pandemic, these states have continued to gain workers who are leaving non-right-to-work states like New York and California. According to the study, states with right-to-work laws added 1.3 million jobs since the pandemic, and non-right-to-work states have lost 1.1 million jobs. California has attracted Americans for years due to its perfect weather and beautiful scenery, among other things. But the Golden State is seeing a massive migration of its residents to places like Idaho, Montana, and Texas. Here to discuss, we have Craig Huey, president of the Huey Report.
It's like Bel Air and Palos Verdes, the homeless are moving up into the area. It's just not a safe place now. You've got between 60 to 100,000 homeless just in LA County. And LA County is 4 million people. It's 39% increase in the last 5 years of homelessness, and it's just devastating. And you know what's happening? Billions and billions of taxpayers' money is being spent on it. Businesses, retired people, people on low and middle income, they're all paying billions of dollars and trying to solve the homeless problem with government solutions that have been proven to be a failure.
Corey, another thing, right now in California, the minimum wage is, I believe, $15 an hour for companies with more than 26 employees. There's a new law being proposed. It's getting a lot of attention, raising the minimum wage for fast food workers to $22 an hour. What's the reaction been to this? What are your thoughts in California?
The reaction by anybody who knows economics is horrible, because it will destroy the businesses, small businesses, franchises, restaurant owners. They won't be able to afford this at all. Right now, because of the minimum wage, we're seeing a rush towards automation in every single industry. In California, we're seeing businesses leave because they can't afford the high costs of employees there. And if you find this type of bill passing, basically the marketplaces says, well, why not make it $50 or $100 an